Two. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bryant Interviews. Today, I am blessed with an old friend of mine, Garri. I'm so disrespectful. I don't even know how to say your last name.
Uh,
Rivkin.
yeah, Rivkin.
Rivkin. So, Garri, when I met you, we were both at City College. I think we were both studying there at the same time. But you
Mhm.
decided to start a program called the City Tutors. Was that was that your idea? Like, how did that come to be?
Yeah, City Tutors was something that got started in 2013. So a little after I graduated from college. It was already at a time when I started teaching.
Okay.
And I was teaching, I was tutoring, I was working in career services at City College. There was different things that I was noticing that I just didn't really wasn't paying attention to as a student.
Okay.
Uh, and and I also was at a point in my life when I wanted to do something more than just um, like have a job.
Okay.
I like even though it was kind of at the early stages of my career, I was already over it. I wanted to,
You can't wait.
yeah. So it was to me, it kind of was weird that like I had to piece together a living as an adjunct.
Okay.
And it's unfortunate that that's something that happens. I couldn't see myself in a career where I would be doing that. I was
Okay.
I was teaching and I was working across three, four institutions,
Wow.
uh, and so rushing back and forth, and that was during my like second year out of grad school, and
What
I
did you go to grad school for?
City College, and it was in applied linguistics,
Okay.
education. And so I once like during the course of my program, I was already teaching courses at City College in the English department,
Okay.
working, um, doing some ESL work, and then working across other institutions. I've um, at the time, I think I was working at a 4-year private school, nonprofit, uh,
Okay.
at City College, and then at a community college. And then I believe I was also working at a career college. So like
Wow.
I had a
That's a
pretty good
long list.
scope, yeah, pretty good scope of what was going on in that space. Uh, and and so as a really young teacher, I was
Okay.
22, 23 at a
No,
time.
no kidding. When you met me, I think you helped me with one of my papers. Is that how we met at the writing center?
Yeah, and so I was right, and so I had that experience coming for me as well. I was a
Okay.
writing center consultant. Well, I was a writing consultant at the center, and then I was a consultant to the writing center as well in my role as curriculum designer.
Wow.
So I actually had built training programs for them, and around the same time, I was also working for the Career Center, running the resume clinic and meeting
Wow.
students, learning about their backgrounds and helping them with their material, but also building
Okay.
like careers in type of workshops. Uh,
Okay.
and so I had a sense of some workforce related stuff, career development stuff,
Right.
and then
Right.
also educational stuff in the classroom, outside of the classroom.
Okay.
Um, and again, I was viewing it from the perspective of as someone working in these different areas, there's some issues popping up. I'm a young educator, and I
Okay.
don't really know. Um, like I'm in the classroom, and I don't have as much support as I would like. Um, I am a tutor, but I'm not quite sure how to like what to do inside of that classroom.
All right.
If I am in a classroom and there's an instructor there, or if I'm outside of the classroom, like how do I meet students? One big
Wow.
issue is access to students, making them aware, and then when you're actually with them, how do you work with them to
Okay.
support their development?
That's actually interesting because you were actually like language and communication was a really big part of how students come across in advance. Is that correct? Because all the curriculum is taught in English, writing is a huge part of how people communicate, be it by email, be it by resume. So you went from writing center to, if I'm not mistaken, executive director, chairman of the board, and president of City Tutors. That's quite a jump.
Yeah, it's a long development, but um, like there, I am privileged to be in this position, and the fact that I have a team in place who has the confidence that I should be doing this type of executive work. Uh,
Okay.
but the beginning stages of it, I had nothing like that in mind. It was
Okay.
just I am an educator in the classroom. I'm someone working in career services, and I'm a student. Like at the time, I was still studying because I started teaching actually while I was in grad school. But before that, when you met me, I think I was a just an undergraduate student at the Writing Center, and so while writing was always like a strength of mine, and I was in the teaching tutoring world,
Okay.
um, I like administration and structures were not something that I was thinking about until I went into my second master's, and that was an
Okay.
urban studies policy related one,
Okay.
and that's where I started.
Where did you get that? Where did you take that? The urban studies.
Still in progress. I had to
Okay.
step away because I started City Tutors,
Okay.
but it was at Queens College, so urban studies
So,
program.
so when I'm actually going down City Tutors, it's very different from what I remember it being. Like City College, they had a tutoring service that, if you don't know chemistry or you don't know calculus, then you could get students that were very good at it and then teach you and do that. Now it seems like, and then it was very City College focused. City Tutors, it seems like a much more ambitious and broad program.
Yes, well, we're actually not a program anymore. We're a nonprofit.
Okay.
Um, we're a public charity. So,
Wow.
and in our citywide, we partner with about 40 programs right now, and we're expanding. Uh,
Wow.
but the journey begins at the college, and it begins as a program, and it's a response to issues that um, I saw there,
Okay.
and that I guess we all kind of experienced as students, and we don't
Right.
really think about it. Like you, you were studying economics, was it?
Yes, that's correct. Well,
Ultimately, I
that was
ended
my
up in,
final degree was
yeah.
Bachelor's of Arts in Economics. Kind of went
Uh,
through a few before that.
yeah, I saw you during graduation. I remember congratulating you, right?
Yeah,
Um, but like you were in classes, probably they were big classes, lecture
very
size
large,
classes, right?
very large.
And you're mentioning that writing is a key component to any subject. It is inherently a skill that is important for us to be successful. And then you're mentioning that like a writing center exists and that there's a tutoring center, but in fact, for one, there is no singular tutoring center at City College. You want to take a guess as to how many learning centers there are?
If I was to randomly guess, maybe like 15, 20,
Whoa, right on the money, 15. Yeah,
15.
yeah. So City College has a ton of resources,
Okay.
um, but they're splintered. They're across, and there's while there is a council and all of that, and there's coordination. It's a big school, 16,000 students, and
I keep
you
forgetting
have
that.
yeah, it's a huge school. It's actually, if you think about it, um, Columbia University has 32 or something like that, 32,000 students in total uh,
Wow.
for the entire university, and we're just a campus of a giant
Right.
university. Yeah. So there's a lot of students. Yes, there are these resources, but students think about our demographic. Look at yourself. Look, like I think about myself. When I was not in class, I was
Hmm.
not on campus. I was working. Right?
Right.
working one job or two jobs, working these jobs to pay through school, and many of the students, like there's the big advertisement that 80+% or something like that graduate with no debt, and that and
Right.
part of that is also that students don't want to take on debt,
Right.
so they
Right.
either and yeah, they're putting themselves there. There may be providers. Oftentimes, they're just rushing back and forth, get their schooling, go do that work, pay the bills, help their family, and then there's not a lot of opportunity to stay on campus, discover the resources, and when it's all over the place and it's like it's very tailored to different things, it's tough. So access is one big issue that has always been the
Okay.
case, and the other is like a lot of these learning centers. When I'm thinking about myself as an instructor and as
Okay.
a tutor, there's no coordination between tutors and instructors.
Really?
It's like, do you, at the writing center, was I communicating with instructors
That's
who?
actually a very good point because in my mind, it's like PLTL for chemistry when we did Chem 103 and 104. We had a liaison and I got to be a liaison and we met with the professor an hour a week or something. Then we did it with the staff and then we met with the students and the grades actually depended on like 5% of the grade was part of the workshop or something. So it's very interesting that like when it's all over the place and they don't have a centralized way to access it, what if they miss something?
Sure. And different institutions do it
Huh?
um, potentially differently, but
Huh?
this is a big issue across any institution, access.
Okay.
That oftentimes tutoring spaces are not in departments themselves. Like,
Okay.
where's the writing center?
If you ask me, I didn't even, it's like outside of the NAC building on some corner that we wouldn't normally go to, if ever, because there's no way to run into it.
Yeah, so it's not in the department.
Hmm.
It's not working in coordination with
Hmm.
the department in any like true sense. Sure,
Okay.
you might bring like a piece of paper that the tutor needs to sign off. At least, and again, I'm also speaking from the perspective of someone who worked there like a
Right.
while ago. So the
Right.
procedure might have changed. Hopefully, has changed. But um, you have that like very limited coordination efforts. And if you hear
Okay.
trains, it's because I live next to Long Island Railroad.
Right.
Uh, but that also means oftentimes you're spending just trying to figure out what's going on in the class. Students often don't know how to explain it. And so it began, this journey towards building City Tutors
Okay.
started with, hey, like I as an instructor don't necessarily have resources to support me as a new
Okay.
instructor. Um, and then there's big classes where you might have lecture
Right.
and the size is difficult.
Right.
What can you really like to reach the objectives of the course? So you might want to do a lot of things,
Right.
but practically, tests are probably the best way to measure. So you're
Mm.
not going to be doing a lot of writing, even though you're saying writing is such a key component.
Okay.
Um, um, and then students can hide. There's that
Right.
issue. They don't need to do in big classes. They don't need to do the work, and then um, yeah, in classes and smaller classes, but with new instructors, there's also that kind of experiment. You're my guinea pig,
Right.
and
Right.
you need individualized support, but you're also a working student, or you don't have time to explore resources on campus. And
Right.
while I could tell you what the resources are in the syllabus, uh, it's not uh, it's not as great as if there was just a tutor in the classroom.
Okay. So you really want to bridge that gap. Like you want to shorten the amount of learning curve and time that it needs to use these resources to make their experience more efficient, better, productive. I assume is that sort of
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
answer?
So that it began like that. It
Okay.
began with, hey, there's a gap,
Okay.
a communication gap
Okay.
between tutors and instructors. There's
Okay.
a gap in terms of just resources,
Okay.
the ease with which students can access.
Okay.
Uh, it is an information gap,
Okay.
which is tough to bridge for a school that's so big. It's really kind of reliant on the individuals to find their
Right.
way
Okay.
as adults, their own responsibility. But you have also students who have just so many responsibilities that they're managing because
Okay.
of who they are. They're first generation. They're immigrants,
Right.
predominantly, and
Right.
so structurally there's an issue there, right? And it's
Well,
not like any particular person's fault. It's just like
right.
history has caused it, and like different forces have come.
That's
And
actually very interesting because most of my classmates that were there, maybe they were US citizens or they were born in the States, but their parents immigrated to the US. And then you have a lot of people that don't have the luxury of private tutors, the network, the navigation that are there. And then they're, they're probably the first ones, a lot of them that I knew, first ones in the family to get a degree. Like, for example, I was the first one in my family to get a degree, like immediate family. And it's very hard to have that initial interaction without any guidance where you have to like figure it out yourself. Like it's very different from someone guides you and says, hey, the door's this way, and versus you're looking for the door and you're like, there's 10 of them. So it's very, navigation has always been a key component. And I'm noticing down in your website, for the City Tutors, you also have, it's tutors and mentorings, correct?
that's
Mentorships?
right. Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the distinction? Like you have a tutor for classes, I'm assuming, like different classes. How far
Yeah.
does that reach?
Uh, yeah. It's like there's so much to discuss, and the
Right.
complexity of that program. Like we're talking about the origination point, but
Uh-huh.
uh, there, a quick kind of definition,
Right.
is tutoring is a reactive support to the needs of a student on an academic level. So
Okay.
someone comes in and they're looking for help with this assignment, and
Okay.
I am going to help them understand it.
Okay.
There's different approaches to tutoring in terms of like philosophy, but ours is let's make sure to build their confidence and learning autonomy, make
Okay.
sure that they know how to do that assignment. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but we do it by working in collaboration with programs. So it's not they're coming to, like, we don't have a learning center. We build ourselves into these programs. Like I mentioned, one key issue is access, and
Okay.
that um, there's always historically been separation where learning centers are over here, and students have to be driven to them. Find either they
Okay.
have to figure it out, or someone has to push them, and then the everything else is somewhere else. So
Okay.
we're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to actually be in the place where they're learning. So we're going
Oh,
to be
okay.
in the classroom. We're going to be um, in the program where they are taking advantage of other resources. Maybe they meet with counselors, or maybe
Okay.
workforce development space, and we're going to be in that same space.
What
And
what inspired you to push through that general direction? Because I'm sure it wasn't just snap your fingers and hey, here we are. So can you tell me more about like the journey of getting to that point, or like how do you convince people, hey, this is the right way to go?
yeah, let me answer that question in a moment. I
Okay.
want to also define, because you asked me right before
Right.
that about mentoring.
Okay.
So tutoring is that reactive, and then mentoring is industry specific connections. So that's a, like I mentioned, the career services,
Right.
and that's the other part to this is when you were going to school,
Okay.
like in reality, you were trying to, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but uh, I suspect that part of your intention to get a degree was so you could get a job.
Absolutely correct. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing is different from how people thought about college education in the past.
Really?
So, yeah, like there was a point in time where people were just going to school. Now, not all people, select
Okay.
group of people. They had access to college, kind of
Oh,
really before the 70s.
okay.
So before open admissions, we were talking about people who were just coming to become um, citizens of the world, to become better positioned, but by having this kind of richness um, of information and
Okay.
access to professors who can they can work with and become leaders themselves,
Right.
and it was a training ground for that more than anything. But it wasn't really. It was just to be have that kind of skill set. It was a privilege. It wasn't a if you wanted to just get a job and support your family. That's not what you were doing. You were going and getting a job after high school. You had the possibility. You could get an apprenticeship. You could go and like most jobs did not require a bachelor's degree, which is the big conversation now that things have changed, right? That
Correct.
manufacturing is not a thing so much. Uh,
This is true.
we, yeah, so we're we're redefining what college is, and we're still doing that. Um, but because we as students at City College are
Okay.
thinking about what to do after college, like one would hope college itself would help prepare us, but it doesn't, because it has this kind of history where the tension is it wasn't like that. It wasn't built for that. And it's still kind of slowly, it's not like everything is fixed all across. Like there are programs that
Mm,
do well, but it's not all uniform. There's a lot of curriculum that are just, they don't have internships, co-ops, things
mm.
like that built in. They're just still academic. Like you had an economics major. Was there a requirement to do some kind of application, some kind of like field work or experience, anything like that as part of the
I
degree?
can't say there was. I really can't say there was.
So that's not a uncommon thing. There's a lot of that going on across different programs. And
Hmm.
to be fair, there are programs that do that to have like a capstone but not everybody has a capstone. Like your capstone might not have been where you had to really like apply your ideas in a way that would
Mm.
be similar to the way you would be using them in the job market. Um,
Okay.
and so what can you add to your resume to prepare you? So that was like you can add the coursework that you have some basic knowledge,
Right.
but there's an expectation that you will do internships on the side.
Didn't
That you
even
would,
think about that. That's a very interesting point.
and because you have to do that, but the problem is that many internships are unpaid. Like because you have to do that, you have to sacrifice something. You
Right.
have to
Yeah.
sacrifice the survival jobs, which people can't. Again, this is a structural issue. So
Mm.
um, you're I mean, it's maybe a little bit easier during the pandemic to
Mm.
juggle these things, but I don't think that we've resolved this at all.
Mm.
So as a and then you have, again, there's so many students, and
Correct.
like, but just as an institution to help them to prepare students for being able to marry what you're doing in these survival jobs with what you're doing in the academics.
Okay.
Like that should be a professional can help with this. Someone, a job coach, an HR person can be like, okay, well, this is how you talk about this narrative, frame it.
Okay.
And also like, oh, there are gaps in skills. Well, this is the opportunities you should take advantage of, and they're flexible. They can work around your schedule, because we realize you have these commitments to your family,
Mm.
to yourself, in order for you to even get this degree. And
Mm.
that's hard. Uh, it's hard to provide because there isn't that state and federal uh, investment. So you have 16,000 students. How many career service professionals are there?
I don't even
That's
remember being able to get an appointment that wasn't like 3 months away or something. It wasn't the most easy thing in the world to do.
yeah. So take a guess. How many people you think full
Career
time?
service full time at City College, I would guess five.
You're spot on. It is 5.
I don't know this. Okay, I didn't premeditate this, but if I was to randomly guess,
Yeah,
I wouldn't imagine there would be many, like single digits.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that there's five right now. If there's six, that would be fantastic. But the last time I checked, I think that's the case. And when I was there, when I was working, there was like three or
Wow,
four. So that's an improvement. We're going in the right direction. But again, COVID hasn't helped
correct.
certainly, and and like the disinvestment in our public institutions hasn't helped, and that's continuing. Um,
Right.
so so you have, yeah, it's tough to get an appointment. It requires really motivation, and so who's going to be the most motivated? Those who have less obligations usually.
Right.
um, so you it feels like a DMV style service, and like great professionals, great, like if you actually are working with the people there, you're going to be positioned for
Mm.
success. And I know because I worked there and I saw them. They're very caring, they're very committed, and I learned so much from them. But they're limited in their resources. And in reality, 16,000 students, 5 people. It's just like the
You can't do
ratio
the
is not.
math.
Yeah,
There aren't enough hours.
yeah. There's and other institutions have more people. Like Columbia has 10 people,
Wow.
10 full timers, or like
Wow.
close to that. So yeah, a big difference in resources. And then
Okay.
that's not even talking about part-time and interns and whoever like runs that space.
Right.
uh, so you have this problem. You have a curriculum that isn't focused on like preparing students for post-college. You have
Okay.
a need for internships but they're mostly unpaid, and that is a challenge for students who need to work. And then you
Mhm.
have resources that are limited, and so that's not uh, that's a problem that I saw. And the
Wow.
but there's an opportunity. Why not? Like, there's a lot of people who could use what they're studying to help other students who need access to resources, who they don't. They're like these learning centers, while they're great, they're also limited in their resources.
Wow.
And so, and also kind of historically, just again, they're all over the place, but they're not working because they're already what they are doing. That's how they are getting the money. So changing
Okay.
their operation fundamentally is tough. So there's an opportunity to like fill in the gap,
Okay.
to provide resources to the different programs instructors, while also supporting the students and their preparation for post college.
Okay. Because it's because like it's just a like in the span of the young adult's life, if I can generalize like this, it's typically, elementary school, intermediate school, middle school, high school, college, and then what now? So is this something that you guys think about a lot, like the what now of where they go from there, in terms of like the mentorship and advising and direction?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely thinking about it. We're not a silver bullet to it, but our model is, how about you volunteer a couple of hours of your time, let's say 2-3 hours. You're volunteering as a tutor. Let's say you're a CCNY student. You volunteer as a tutor, and you will tutor a subject that is either foundational to your
Mm-hmm.
degree,
Mm-hmm.
um, or maybe requires skills
Mm-hmm.
that you want to use when you are in your first job out of
Mm-hmm.
school. And we're also going to train you in best practices of tutoring, so you can even then leverage your experience to get a paid tutoring opportunity, maybe
Wow.
even through our network, because we're our brand is such that companies, like, they see an opportunity, oh, a recruiting pool. Hey, these people are actually like passionate about helping their classmates. They
Wow.
are trained. Let's just go there. It's an easy thing instead of just like posting and figuring it out. almost like a verified source.
That's actually very interesting because like nowadays people are more, I guess, if the correct term is socially conscious or socially aware, and companies are looking at people and people are wondering what are companies and people giving back to the community, right? Like I was looking at Facebook and Microsoft and Google, and a lot of them have this idea of how are you also volunteering your time to benefit the community or give back. So how has the city tutors been involved with companies and the idea of really just being benevolent and giving back to the community?
Yeah, so and this is where, so we got to the point that we're a program at City College and we're
Okay.
doing this type of model,
Okay.
but we're also like we post on these different websites, and we're searchable on Google, so that anybody who wants to become a volunteer
Okay.
can find us. And what we find is that a lot of professionals find us,
Wow.
start looking for us.
Give me an example of two like you wouldn't expect. You didn't expect these specific professionals to come approach you. Any
Director of a pharmaceutical company,
wow.
or I don't know, a limited partner of a investment bank.
A variety.
Yeah. So these individuals also want to volunteer, and because we're we're building relationships with classes, with instructors, with programs, and we're like building ourselves in at City College under the auspices of the Colin Powell School. So we're doing this as a program, and we're
Wow.
supporting the social sciences. Your
Right.
your school, yeah. So we're doing that, and we get picked up, and we do that from 2014 onward.
Wow.
Uh, but while we're doing that, we have so many people coming in. We want to provide support, and so there's this opportunity to connect the professionals with students.
Tell me more about that.
So instead of from the beginning, I mentioned we want to marry what
Uh-huh.
they're doing in for survival jobs, because they're volunteering their time. They're also working somewhere else. But
Okay.
what they're doing there, what they're doing in school, and now what they're doing with us.
Okay.
And we begin as just like having an office and having a professional development coach. But
Mhm.
that's not connecting as good, because that person is a generalist. And so
Hmm.
similar to how career center is structured. It's not by profession. It's impossible to accommodate everybody, or to have space in your mind to know about everything. So you can only do so much. You could do basic documents, but you can't do it from the lens of a person in the industry, and can't really help them with
That is true.
their career exploration.
That
Like
is true.
I might have a background in higher education. You are interested in the food industry. I
Mhm.
know nothing about the food industry. I can help you with your resume, but that's about it. And like I
Right.
can help you with certain like processes of how to apply for jobs. And but you still have a hunger for getting to know someone from the industry, and this is especially true. I mean, maybe food industry is a little bit easier to get access to people there, but if you're a person who's an economics major and you want to work in private equity or investment banking, that person is harder to connect with, right?
Hmm.
Where are you going to find this person? You hope that maybe one of your instructors has that connection, but maybe they don't.
Right.
And maybe you're not comfortable because these are big classes and you don't like talking to your instructor. You never build a relationship with them. Are you going to go to the department? You don't have time. You got to work. So
That is true.
when are you going to do this? You're not going to go to the career center. Maybe they have some context, but again, no time. You said that it took about a month to get even
Yeah.
conversation. So
Mhm.
uh, our program, because we start getting so many industry professionals, we create something, a mentorship program,
Mhm.
where our as a volunteer, especially a volunteer student, especially a volunteer student from City College, you
Mhm.
would have access to long-term support, 4 to 6 months support from an industry professional from a field you're interested in.
Wow.
And you would get connected, and monthly you would meet, and they would help you with your professional documents. And so not only are you serving the community and building skills that you can leverage for
Mm.
paid opportunity and position yourself for a job
Right.
going out of school, because everybody wants, every profession wants somebody who knows how to communicate well, who knows how to facilitate,
Right.
who who knows how to keep good data.
Mm.
Uh, but now you also have access to an industry
Mm.
professional who is helping bring all of this together and help you craft a narrative. So
Okay. That's very, yeah. No, that's actually very interesting because that brings me up to like when I was reading like there's this story or there's this mini short comic around of the difference between someone that might be born into privilege, that his mom and dad works as a CEO of X, Y, and Z, knows certain person, and then they bring in to work internships and such. And then there's the other person that parents, they can't afford to keep the roof over their head. They work the part-time gig. And then at the end of the day, they can't get as far because of that difference. So is your mission at the City Tutors to basically allow that accessibility to people
uh,
and give them that benefit?
yeah, so that's definitely part of it. If you want to help, you can
Okay.
help. There's a place, an easy way for you to access. If you need help, you can get help. But the way that we approach providing help, it's not you as an individual um, will come to us and ask for a tutor,
Mm.
because that privileges the person who finds out about us.
Mm.
And there's many people who don't, because for the same reasons why, like, one argument against charter schools is that you really need to know, you need to get into that lottery system, you need to
Mm.
have like advocates for you. And if your parents are new to the country, if they're busy just trying to survive, help you survive, then all of that like there needs to be better structures in place.
Mm.
Certainly want that easy access for the individual, but an important starting point is also getting into these communities. And so what we did is actually started approaching nonprofits across the city. So once we evolved and we got to the point that we're big and we're serving and we still have more people coming to volunteer, we have all of this capacity. Where are we going to direct our energy? And
Okay.
so we do community work. We started in Harlem, partnering with schools, colleges, housing projects,
Wow.
school enrichment programs,
Okay.
social service agencies, labs, anything that has an educational arm, and
Hmm.
then providing them with resources, giving them tutors
Wow.
so that the students in those programs have access.
Okay.
And we would talk with those programs, consult with them, help them um, build the kind of space that would be accommodating to the volunteer so that they can feel empowered, and then that the student has access. And the way that they feel empowered is because they have access to students. The students have the ability to learn from this uh, tutor, this volunteer, because the space is quiet, there's resources available, textbooks or whatever is needed. There's and the program we're working with also is taking care of some of these other things in their life, whether it be social emotional needs, whether
Mm.
it be like food insecurity, housing, whether it be like workforce development stuff. Maybe it would be instruction that they're receiving,
Okay.
because we're tutors and that's not our place. We're not supposed to give, why I said reactive, we're not the ones who are giving you first run through the
Okay.
material. You need to have specific questions for us.
Okay.
Yeah, and so um, that's that's how we began in Harlem, and that's how we've kind of moved through the entire city. We're now working with a lot of different. If you go to our website, thecitytutors.org, and you take a look at
And just for the audience to know, there's going to be a link to all this info and description below on the video. Don't mean to cut you off. Continue.
No, I was going to say that you can see the map. You can see all the different places where we're working. So we're across the city, where we just got into Staten Island, so we're in all
Wow.
5 boroughs,
Okay.
um, and we're growing. There's a lot of places that experience the same issues that City College does, where it's under-resourced, the same type of populations. Uh, and there's a lot of want to help, and yet they don't know how to. It's very tricky. Just the same as you were having trouble with getting access to the career center, there's a lot of professionals and students who are looking for opportunities to volunteer and who want to leverage their academic background, the
Okay.
basic, their interests, content interests, or the skills that they use on a regular basis in their job,
Okay.
and direct it to in a way that isn't just doing more hours at work or applying them to get a better grade in their own life, but to help people who might not have had the privileges that they have had. And while for a student, it might be as easy as turning to the classmate next to you and forming a study group and being supportive of that student who's struggling, uh, we amplify your voice. We're able to give you a platform that you can help not just that one student, that two students who join your study group, but help uh, students who are from low-income communities that are particularly lacking access to resources normally,
That's
have
actually a
no
very
access.
key issue. Like a lot of families, they had difficulty during the pandemic. My child doesn't have a computer. My child doesn't have internet access. How are they going to do homeschooling? And now I noticed that on your website, you're also saying that you don't need experience in tutoring because you, as City Tutors, you provide that. So they're also learning a skill, which is how to teach other people. So
Yeah,
it's not like a one-sided deal. There's benefit to both parties. Like the person that needs help gets to tutor. The person that's tutoring also enriches their life experience as well and learns other skills and also builds connections. Am I mistaken in that
oh,
remark?
not at all. No, that is very much part of the core of what we're doing. And you're talking about connections. We have over 400, 500 people in our pool
Wow.
at any given time. So we have a lot of professionals and we have students. We're also, at this point, building relationships with companies, Goldman Sachs and Citi and Google and all of those. They're
Wow.
part of our family. And so for a volunteer, when they join, you're joining something that is like one email away from me to connect you with somebody from these companies. uh, it's great networking opportunity. But we also built a program for the community to just connect with people in these different industries. So while we have this long form program that is a retention tool for our
Mhm.
volunteers and a community building tool, we also built something in response to COVID, and that is the City Mentor Program, the Community City Mentor Program, where a person, yourself, you can
Mhm.
go ahead and sign up and you get connected with somebody from a field you're interested in, and you would have these virtual sessions. However many you need on average is usually two, more because that's what most people feel they need at any
Okay.
given time. And then that person, that industry professional, reviews your material, uh, gives you insights into the career, the industry, the culture, all of that. And you you would then, it's unlimited access. So if you wanted to step out, that's fine, but you would then still have access to get connected with another mentor.
Wow.
Uh, and so 1 in 5 mentorships lead to another mentorship for us.
So
We've facilitated over about 600 mentorships since
wow.
mid-March.
That's actually a very good point because a lot of people like they might be shy. They might think to themselves like, I don't know how to reach people. What if they're not receptive? Fear of rejection is a large part. So so how do you help people that fear rejection to approach these large companies? Do you recommend that they get involved with the city tutors to be able to be more comfortable talking, or?
Well, when you're saying to approach the large companies, not, can you give me a little bit more? What do you mean by that?
So like for example, if like when I notice that there's a career fair or like a job fair, typically you'll have 20 different companies. Like Baruch had a job fair, and then there'll be a bunch of CPA firms or accounting firms or different companies all over the place. And then you students, they go there and they basically hand in resumes, and that's the extent of their interaction really. Like they might talk with the recruiter, hey, what was your experience at this company or that company? But the interaction tends to stop there because companies might have a very large number of applicants. They might have 1,000 applications for 10 positions or 15 positions. And then the interaction stops there when they get the rejection of, oh, I'm sorry, the spots are filled up. So in city tutors, when you mentor students, the there there is much more reception, I would imagine, that you'd be able to help people because there isn't that stop, you didn't get the job, so we stop helping you. Is that?
Yeah, well, we're not a workforce development. We're not like, one way that we do have so many industry professionals volunteering time to meet with students is that there's no expectation that this industry professional is going to connect you with their job or that will
Okay.
shepherd you into a job. It's informational conversation, so it's low pressure on them, and it should be low pressure on the students. They're building a relationship with this person. They're learning about um, an industry, a work title that they didn't know, but that they're interested in.
That's actually very interesting because like when you like for example in like working in hospitality myself, if someone asks me a question like, hey, how do I become a bartender, hypothetically, I'll be able to guide them and give them a better shot if I inform them, hey, maybe you should learn how to do these particular drinks, or they have a question or fear of how do I deal with workplace harassment, and I can explain what the laws are, like, hey, no catcalling, stuff like that. Like you can break things down. So I feel like no matter what, they're gonna still be able to learn something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a role for information sharing and
Hmm.
the just be having exposure to professionals within a given field. There certainly is a value to having a formal program where if you enter, get accepted into it, and they help you, they might have connections to companies and then they can place you. That's also very important. But oftentimes, those programs are run by generalists.
Oh,
And
okay.
and the one big thing, and not everybody is like has the commitment to this long process. It's tough. You
Mm,
need to sacrifice other things, and students are always going to prioritize school and work,
of
right?
course.
That's like that. Those are the two main things that are constantly in their mind. So any new program, that's a barrier,
Mm,
um, potentially to them fulfilling those other expectations.
mm.
Um, and so as long as it's low commitment, couple of sessions, some conversations, those are those are things that they can do, and that's why there's so many of them that come and take advantage of the service. Much less take
This is
advantage of
completely
long
free.
term.
Just to reiterate, this program 100% free.
Yeah, anybody, any mentee looking to use the service, no charge to them, no charge to any volunteer who's trying to use the long-term program, or that they're looking to become a volunteer. Yeah, it's a free service.
Wow. So I'm also looking in your main site, it seems like you're also involved in elementary school as well. Is that?
Yeah, we work with ages 5 to 65 plus. So we're a
Wow.
hub for, think of us like a staffing agency. We get the volunteers, we
Okay.
train them, and then we place them at different locations across the city.
Wow.
So we are not a learning center. We don't have our own students.
Okay.
Rather, we're all about connecting. You want to help? Here's a place that really needs the help, and we will have develop the kind of space that will be most productive to you, your presence there. The best, because we're coming in thinking about, okay, what kind of tutoring would work well in your program? Will it be one-on-one? Will it be in class? Will it be study group based? And before it was also whether it will be virtual. Now everything is virtual, but we're looking at the different tools that we have that as in terms of like tutoring pedagogy. How would it work best given the population that you serve? You have the students, we'll provide you with the tutors, we'll equip them with the knowledge of how to support these students, and then also how to work in this environment, given what kind of tutoring model we've selected.
Wow. So what type of resources would you, if you had a hypothetical list of resources you could conjure up to thin air to help your program grow, expand, take it to the next level, so to speak, what would you request?
Well, the biggest thing is we've just become a nonprofit, so we're fundraising. It's all about just creating the kind of channels of funds that will allow for us to do this work long term. We're corporate sponsorships, that's one thing. Investment from the programs that we support, that's another. Grants will be in the future, but also just individual donations. And that's if we're a lean program, and there's a multiplier effect when you're investing in us, because if you are for every dollar you're into us, you're supporting 40 different programs, because that's really, we're managing support for all of these. You're able to serve the entire city. Wow. Through us, given that we're a hub and there are spokes, right? Wow. So yeah, it's the same challenges that any nonprofit have, which is just raising the kind of funds that allow for us to succeed. And we're just starting out. And so we're looking for people who are going to invest in us and into our work, into the services that we're providing across the city. If you like the model, if you like or if they want to maybe serve in an advisory board capacity, or maybe connect us with programs that need the help, or maybe introduce us to their companies. All of that is also helpful.
A CPA tax advisor on your board?
We have someone who's a former CFO of wow. Yeah, so we have a really strong team. If you go and look at our leadership team, go and look at the advisory board, there's a lot of talent there. But wow. Definitely, we're always looking for more assistance.
Wonderful. So first and foremost, Garri, I know that it's been a scheduling thing, and I'm so thankful you're here. I want to thank you especially, and the rest of our viewers, for tuning in. Definitely check out the citytutors.org, link in the description below, contact information, and definitely look forward to speaking to you again.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
This is a really great thing you're doing. Very exciting. Hope you keep doing it.
Thank you.